Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. And today I wanted to talk about base building. With PES and item attach and detach, CIG is now on the road to essentially adding in this long-awaited feature. And believe it or not, they have been exploring this idea for a very long time. And so I wanted to get into that today because this feature has been long awaited by many members of the community. It is kind of what a lot of people see as the end game in Star Citizen. So I wanted to talk about kind of what CIG's intentions for the gameplay loop could be. I also wanted to talk about a little bit about my ideas and explain them and kind of compare and contrast, you know, other games housing systems a little bit to Star Citizen. Okay, so if you guys like this content, hit the like button. It really helps me out a lot. Get these videos out to you guys. I enjoy making these videos for you, so hit the like button, hit subscribe, and with all that out of the way, let's get right into it. Now, you're probably seeing in the background a lot of these models. So essentially what CIG has done is they've made kind of a zoo, is what they call it, of different assets, different modules, different things that you can add together to build out your base on a planet. So the question is, before we even get into that, I'm getting way ahead of myself. How does this system actually work? Where do we begin? So it all kind of starts with the land claiming system. And to kind of explain it a little bit, I want to compare it to Earth 2 for a second. And I know this might seem kind of out of left field, but it'll make sense as I talk a little bit more about it. So early on, CIG sold a spaceship called the Pioneer. And this ship essentially has the ability to build these base modules that you see behind me. Now, at the time that CIG sold the Pioneer, a lot of these modules weren't really in the game, or they weren't really something that CIG were working on. Essentially, what the Pioneer would make were the types of outposts that we have now, the prefabricated buildings. These structures are a little bit more detailed, a little bit more complex. So I don't know if the Pioneer is going to make them the same way, or if CIG is going to change that mechanic. But the second thing that essentially came with the Pioneer was the land claim beacon. And CIG, I believe, also sold these separately for about $50. Now, there was a lot of controversy surrounding this, because there is, and you know, has been for a while now, a lot of controversy around selling land in a video game. So that's why I mentioned Earth 2. Now, Earth 2's solution or method of how they sell land is completely different than Star Citizen. So the developers behind Earth 2 essentially procedurally generate a planet, they add resources on that planet, then they lay a grid over that planet and sell that grid in units, different parcels of land. And these parcels of land have value depending on where they are or what resources are near them. So there's a big incentive for what I call flippers. These are people who they want to buy in early and essentially sell when the game has a little bit more utility. Now, Earth 2 is a little bit different because they're doing NFTs, and this system is kind of set up for making money. Star Citizen is not like that. Now, in Star Citizen system, they're not selling parcels of land. What they sold was a beacon, or a ability to pick your own land. And this is very different because it's not really based on location, supply and demand, or resource. Secondly, it's not really based on price. All the land claims are essentially the exact same price. Third, it's not based on resources because, well, the land is not going to have resources under it. The way Star Citizen works is that they have a spawn rate or spawn probabilities of where different rocks will spawn, different harvestables will spawn, and you really don't get that subterranean deposit type gameplay. Now, I know a lot of people point out this picture of the prospector with the mining head facing straight down. I don't think CIG plans to do that anymore. Recently, I think it was on a Star Citizen Live, the devs kind of said that that's not going to be a thing anymore. So yeah, I don't believe that there will be subterranean deposits, and I think that's a good thing, because in that way you're not really prioritizing the resources on land. So again, this kind of is a bit more of a fair system because all land is the same price. There are no resources on any land, and the next thing that I kind of forgot to mention is that you will be able to buy these land claim beacons in game. So it's not just something that they plan on selling in the store, it's also something that you'll be able to buy in game. You know, maybe it's like 1,000,000 UEC in game and like $50 of real money. Now, when they sold it before, I think it was $50. So where does that leave the player base? What do you do next? Well, basically, once you have your land claim beacon, you essentially have to put it somewhere in the game, and this beacon will entitle you to, I believe, 4 square kilometers of area where you can put your base down, and you will need the Pioneer to build this base. So it's not like in other games where, you know, this resources it is kind of something that you can sit on. No, you have to really play the game to get the most out of this land. It's not going to have any inherent value on its own. Now, you could consider that, okay, it's problematic because the game is still in an alpha state, so it's more likely that CIG releases this feature closer to release to give everybody an opportunity to get the land that they want. Because you run into a problem where if CIG makes this feature available early, people who are waiting for the release of the game, they might miss out on the land that they want, or a lot of the best land. Let's say because the persistent universe is, you know, the same across all servers, and CIG wants base building to be the same across all servers. If you put your beacon, let's say, at the edge of a river, that is your land now, and nobody else can claim that in the whole entire world. When you wake up in the morning in game and you look outside the window of your habitat, that view is yours and yours alone. And that is that unique perspective. It can be, you know, there's no gameplay advantage to that, but it can be something that, you know, newer players will miss out on if CIG implements base building, you know, when the game is in alpha. And so the next thing I want to talk about is the advantages to base building, because I know a lot of people plan to live on their ship or in cities. Now, I kind of spoke about this a little bit in my video about apartments. I personally don't have a problem with CIG selling apartments. In my opinion, it is a good idea because it gives CIG an alternative stream of monetization that is not just selling ships. Now, I've said it in the past, I think that, you know, the constant cycle of CIG having to sell ships is slightly problematic because we get a lot of ships that we don't need, or you know, you have the developers focusing on an aspect of the game that, you know, is, I mean, at this point we have over 100 spaceships in the game. So the devs' attention on, you know, creating these highly detailed spaceships, you know, there are people in the community that kind of wonder if, you know, those resources couldn't be better used. So one thing with selling apartments is that the kind of a lot easier to pull off, in my opinion, because you can make different floor plans that people can buy, and then the players can decorate it themselves with in-game items and show off the things that they've earned in game. But the reason why I think selling apartments is okay is because apartments are purely cosmetic. Let's say you have a starter apartment that, you know, is free, but then CIG sells, you know, the 2-bedroom apartment, the 3-bedroom apartment, the penthouse, and you can buy that on the store. At the end of the day, that's purely cosmetic. There's no utility in having that apartment in a game where, you know, spaceships are everything. You know, right now location matters a lot. In reality, location matters a lot because going from point A to point B is very difficult. Having to drive, having to commute to work, it matters. So where you rent or where you buy a house matters a lot. But in a game like Star Citizens, it doesn't matter. You get in your spaceship, you fly anywhere you want to. You can go on the other side of the star system. So realistically, an apartment is a cosmetic item, in my opinion. It doesn't have any utility. It doesn't make money for you. It is just some place where you can put items and show off to your friends. That's a cosmetic experience. That's not gameplay, in my opinion. So I have absolutely no problem with CIG selling apartments, but bases are a little bit different, because a base is a place where you operate out of, a place where players are going to make money from, a place where you can put surface level refineries, a place where you can do farming, a place where you can do crafting. So because bases have a gameplay utility that could potentially give you an advantage, by selling a base, it's kind of like pay to win. And to kind of avoid that, CIG could implement a strategy where, you know, to utilize the Pioneer to its fullest, you kind of have to craft these buildings, these modules, these things. So again, you can get a beacon in game, you can buy a beacon with real money, and then of course you have the Pioneer, which is like $1,000 spaceship, but you will eventually be able to buy a Pioneer in game. And then the last layer to that progression is the crafting of the items. And I think, again, by making the actual buildings non-purchasable like a refinery, I don't think CIG should make a refinery module or farming module something that you can purchase on the store or purchase in game. I think CIG should make these things something that you have to craft, because again, that will lend to that end game progression. Okay, you have the Pioneer, you have your land claim, what next? Well, now you can go out and you can gather the resources to build the buildings on your land claim, and to actually start making money from that, the different farming modules, the different refining modules and whatnot. And so let's say you have a Pioneer and you want to make a solar panel, for instance. You have to get, you know, the carbon and silica and aluminum, and then the Pioneer will take these ingredients and then it will print out a solar panel array for you. And so adding that extra layer in incentivizes the players to go out and do these things, and to add to that experience of, you know, making this base something that's really your own. Again, I'm just guessing here. I don't know exactly how CIG plans to make this system, but I think infusing crafting into the Pioneer will help that end game, and preventing or not selling again, it could be okay to sell like a hab or a garage or a storage unit, but something like a refinery or a farming module, I don't think CIG should sell those things, because again, those have gameplay implications, and so if you sell those things, you know, everybody who just buys it, I mean, at the very least, it would be pay to skip. I don't think that would be good for the game, because again, spaceships kind of already are pay to skip. You buy a spaceship, you know, you don't have to grind, you don't have to earn. That progression loop is kind of been, you know, that progression loop doesn't matter as much because you can buy ships on the store. So I feel like if you make a system where you can't buy these modules, it will, you know, it will encourage that progression loop for people to go out and craft these buildings and add them to their base. Now, once you have, you know, a base together, I don't know entirely, you know, what options CIG are going to make available, but they essentially said the way that they want to do it is that these bases will persist through, you know, various servers. And because of PES, people have been able to like park their ships in certain locations, and that persists, and they wake back up in it the next day. Now, PES has kind of been, you know, making the server struggle, and I don't know what it's going to do to the game to essentially have, you know, millions of people have assets strung all across, you know, multiple planets, but CIG has time to optimize that. Ultimately, these locations, I feel like, you know, you see in the background here, there are a lot of options, there are a lot of modules, solar panels, windmills, storage buildings. These are, in my opinion, great things for the player to craft, different usables. And I think I talked about this in my crafting video as well. An item like the Greycat multi-tool, in my opinion, isn't a great crafting item. That's something that's produced by Greycat, and that's something that, you know, I think could be problematic for the player base to craft on a regular basis. But something like a solar panel, something like a windmill, something like a power unit, something like a battery backup, something like a you know, a wind vane, something like a storage unit or a water heater, different items that are you know, kind of ubiquitous enough. I mean, a solar panel is a technology that is not going to be proprietary in 900 years. You know, at that point, anybody should be able to make a solar panel. It's not something that you need. It's not something that you need a specific brand to produce. It's something that should be producible by a regular person. So this is a great item to have the community craft. And a lot of these, like you see in this photo here with the comm tower, those are great items for the player base to be able to craft. And I feel like having the crafting system heavily tied into, you know, HABs and that type of environment kind of lends to the end game progression in the game, because you can again get the beacon and the pioneer, or have someone with a pioneer build this for you. Now, I don't exactly know how CIG is going to handle that, because once you get into that type of gameplay, you run into RMT situations, which RMT stands for real money transactions. And you've seen a little bit of this with MedRunner. Recently I saw a post on Reddit where, you know, somebody who was, I don't know if they were really a MedRunner member, but they were claiming to be a member of MedRunner, and they were kind of asking for real money to go and rescue people. And kind of the more time sinks you add into the game, the more complexity you add into the game. Again, I've seen on Spectrum and Reddit people saying that there's a lot of time sinks in the game, kind of complaining about that. Recently there's been a lot of talk about that because CIG increased the claim timers. Honestly, people are going to turn to RMT. People are going to say, hey, you need fuel, I will go and refuel your ship, Venmo me 20 bucks, PayPal me $5. That's a possibility. It's something that people have been doing in MMOs for a long time, and something that, you know, developers have struggled trying to squash. So in a situation with base building, I wouldn't be surprised if somebody was tempted to, you know, pay another player real money to craft an item, or pay another player real money to build their base. That's something that CIG is going to have to keep a close eye on. It is against TOS. You cannot solicit, you know, real money from other players in the game. Again, we want to keep this fair and equal to everybody. The last thing you want to do is offer in-game services for real money. That's not what we want this game to devolve into. But that's something that CIG is going to have to look at, putting safeguards in the game to kind of prevent. Again, the gray market is another thing that I talked about. You guys could check out that video as well. Again, if CIG is not selling it, it can't be on the gray market. So that's why, another reason why I don't think CIG should sell base equipment, base supplies, base buildings. Again, I feel like there's too much gameplay value in a base for CIG to sell it. But what do you guys think? This is a really interesting topic. This is something that the community has been waiting for a long time. This is something that is probably closer than ever. I mean, a lot of the artwork that you're looking at in the background has been on the subscriber vault since before Lagrange Point gas clouds. And you know how long we've had Lagrange Point gas clouds. So this has, you know, been in the background for a long time, not to mention, you know, the Pioneer concept and the whole you know, beacon system. But ultimately I think it's the beacon system is a good system. Ultimately I think CIG should sell apartments. I think that's a good secondary stream of monetization that's not just selling ships, skins, cosmetics, because the problem with cosmetics is that you could lose them in game. And the same thing with the skins. The skins is good, a lot of people like them, but again, I feel like, you know, a lot of people don't feel the need to get skins. I feel like an apartment is something that, you know, will make players feel more grounded to the game, something that a lot of people will feel the kind of need to get, not just a skin. Again, I don't feel like a lot of people feel the need to get skins, but a nicer apartment I feel like is definitely something someone would want to spend some more money on. Again, it's not something that they have to spend money on, but it's something that they would want to spend money on, something that's different that CIG could offer, that, you know, people would be like, oh, okay, I've seen a lot of ships, I've seen a lot of skins, I've seen a lot of all this stuff, but I haven't really seen this is new. So I could give, you know, CIG $50 for this, or whatever the price is going to be. But again, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I love hearing from you guys. Again, I've with Invictus going on, there's a lot of content to be seen with the game, and I love all the support you guys have been giving me on the videos, liking, subscribing. I really appreciate it. You guys have been doing an amazing job. You guys are just awesome. I don't know how other way to say it. it really makes me excited to make content for you guys, to make videos. I just love it. So keep it up. I love hearing from you guys. I see a lot of the same people in the comments down below. You guys are rock stars. So yeah, like I always say, like the video if you like it, subscribe if you want to see more, and I will see you guys in the next one. Salut.